Rain fell softly on the ruined colony world. Rusted towers leaned against the wind and broken lights flickered like dying stars. Eli, a young human engineer, walked alone through the cracked streets, his boots splashing in muddy puddles. His mission was simple: collect spare energy cells from the old transport yard before nightfall. But he never expected to find someone there. As he turned a corner, a faint sound reached him. It wasn't the wind or the hum of machinery. It was a soft, trembling cry. Eli froze, scanning the shadows. Under a half-collapsed shelter, he saw a small figure, thin, shaking, and covered in torn cloth. Her skin glowed faintly blue under the rain, and her silver eyes were full of fear. For a moment, he thought she was a trick of the light. But then she looked up. The little alien girl tried to crawl backward, her hands clutching an empty food pack. She looked starving, weak, and scared. Eli slowly knelt, keeping his voice gentle. "Hey, it's okay. I won't hurt you." The girl didn't answer. She only watched him, like a wild creature unsure whether to run or trust. Her lips moved, whispering something he couldn't understand. Eli opened his pocket. Inside was a single chocolate bar, the last one he had kept from Earth. He had saved it for bad days, for when loneliness became too heavy. But seeing her now shaking and hungry, he didn't hesitate. He tore the wrapper and held it out. "Here, it's sweet. You'll like it." The girl sniffed the air, then reached out with trembling fingers. The moment she tasted it, her eyes widened. She chewed slowly, as if the flavor was something she had never known before. For a few seconds, she forgot to be afraid. Eli smiled. "See? Not poison." A faint smile touched her lips, and the first one he had seen. It was small but full of life, like dawn breaking through dark clouds. He noticed her hands. They were covered in small cuts, dirt, and frostbite marks. Her clothes were little more than rags. Someone had abandoned her here. But why, he didn't ask. She wouldn't answer anyway. The rain grew colder. Eli sighed and took off his jacket, wrapping it around her shoulders. "Come on, you can't stay out here. My shelter's close." She looked confused, repeating a word in her own language. Then softly, she whispered in broken English, "Human?" He nodded. "Yeah, human." She blinked, repeating the word like it meant something sacred. "Huh, man." He guided her through the ruins to his small base, an old cargo shelter turned workshop. Inside, he turned on a heater, giving off a warm orange glow. The girl sat near it, her silver eyes reflecting the light like mirrors. Eli gave her water and a piece of ration bread. She ate slowly, her movements careful, almost graceful. Every so often, she looked at him as if studying every detail. His face, his voice, even the way he moved. He tried to ask her name, but she only tilted her head, unsure. Finally, she placed a hand on her chest and whispered something that sounded like Yeah, Alia? He repeated. She nodded, a faint smile returning. "All right then, Alia," he said softly. "You're safe now." Outside, thunder rolled across the black sky. Eli checked his radar, no signals nearby. But far beyond the storm clouds, something blinked red. An incoming transmission unnoticed by him. A small hidden drone hovered in the distance, its lens glowing faintly. It zoomed in, recording everything, the human, the girl, the chocolate in her hand. Then it flew away into the night. Inside the shelter, Alia had fallen asleep, wrapped in his jacket. Eli sat by the heater, staring at the rain. He didn't know who she really was. He didn't know that his single act of kindness would soon shake two worlds. He only knew one thing. She looked like a child who hadn't been shown kindness in a long, long time. And for tonight, that was enough reason to protect her. The storm raged outside, but inside that tiny shelter, something began to change. A fragile bond between two beings who should have been enemies. Eli leaned back, whispering to himself, "Guess I'm not alone anymore." A faint smile crossed Alia's sleeping face. Somewhere in her dreams, the word human echoed. Soft, warm, and full of hope. The rain outside turned heavier, hammering against the metal roof of the small outpost. The world beyond was dark and full of echoes. Inside, the soft hum of Eli's heater filled the silence. The air smelled of rust, dust, and something faintly sweet, the leftover scent of chocolate. Alia sat near the heater, wrapped in his oversized jacket. The orange light made her silver eyes shine like small stars. She moved her fingers slowly, warming them, watching the strange human machine that breathed warmth into the cold night. Eli worked quietly at his repair table, fixing a damaged transmitter, Sparks flickered each time his tools touched the metal. He didn't look at her much, but he knew she was watching him. Every move, every sound. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft and steady. "You can stay here tonight?" She tilted her head, not understanding all his words, but catching his tone. She gave a tiny nod and whispered, "Thank you," the way a child says a word they just learned. Her voice was thin but gentle. Eli smiled. "You're welcome." Hours passed slowly. He checked his sensors, no life signals, no patrol drones in the area. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that the world outside was watching. He had helped refugees before, but this felt different. This girl wasn't just lost. She was important, though he didn't know why yet. Alia explored the room with quiet curiosity. She touched the metal walls, the dusty screens, the broken helmet on the shelf. Her fingers traced the human letters scratched into it. She tried to copy them in the air with her hand. Eli chuckled, watching her silently. He brought her a cup of warm water. She held it like it was treasure. Her hands trembled slightly as she drank. "You like it warm?" he asked. She nodded. "Warm, good." That single word made Eli smile. She was learning fast. Outside, thunder rolled again. The sound made Alia flinch and pull the jacket tighter around her small frame. Eli noticed. "It's just thunder. Won't hurt you," she whispered, "loud sky," and covered her ears. Eli turned on a soft music file, an old Earth song playing through a cracked speaker. The calm melody filled the room. Alia looked around, trying to find where the sound came from. When she found the speaker, she leaned close, listening with wonder. Her eyes softened, and for the first time since he found her, she smiled without fear. "Pretty," she said. "Yeah," Eli replied. "Old Earth music. My mother used to play it." Alia said nothing but kept listening. As the night went on, the storm grew stronger. The roof creaked under the wind. Eli sealed the doors and checked the power levels. He noticed Alia's gaze fixed on the transmitter lying on the table, its wires twisted and dead. Without a word, she walked closer, placed her hand on it, and closed her eyes. The device flickered, then came to life, glowing faint blue. Eli froze, watching. "How did you do that?" he whispered. She blinked as if confused by his question. "Fix," she said simply. The human stared at her hands. They glowed faintly, then dimmed again. She didn't look tired, only calm. There was something in her beyond what she seemed. Eli sat down slowly. "You're full of surprises, aren't you?" Alia tilted her head, unsure if it was a good thing, but his soft smile made her relax again. They spent the rest of the night in quiet peace. The heater hummed, the storm outside howled, and the little outpost felt like a bubble of warmth floating in darkness. Before sleeping, Alia pointed at the chocolate wrapper lying near the bed. "Sweet," she said, remembering. Eli laughed softly. "Yeah, sweet. Maybe tomorrow I'll find you another." She nodded, as if trusting his promise completely. Then she curled up under the blanket, eyes half closed. Eli watched her for a while. The faint blue glow of her skin shimmered softly in the dark. She looked fragile yet peaceful. He didn't know who she really was or what danger might follow her, but something in him had already decided he would protect her no matter what. Outside, lightning flashed, across the horizon, revealing shapes moving far away in the mist. Dark, silhouettes of ships scanning the ground. But inside the little shelter there was only calm breathing and the gentle rhythm of rain. Eli whispered to himself before sleep took him, "Tomorrow will be better." He didn't know that tomorrow would change everything. Morning came slow and gray. The storm had passed, but the air still smelled of metal and wet dust. Eli stepped outside his shelter, scanning the horizon. The ruins stretched endlessly, silent and broken. He could hear only the wind and the soft crackle of the generator. It felt calm, too calm. Inside, Alia was awake, sitting cross-legged near the heater, tracing shapes on the floor with her finger. She looked peaceful, but her eyes carried a shadow as if some memory haunted her. When Eli smiled, she tried to return it, but it didn't reach her eyes. He cooked a small meal from his rations and handed her half. She hesitated but ate slowly, whispering the human words he had taught her, bread, water, warm. She was learning fast, and each word made her voice stronger. Eli turned his attention to the transmitter. The screen glowed faintly since Alia had fixed it. He checked the signal, hoping for a message from any nearby colony. But instead, a strange frequency flashed across the monitor, lines of symbols he didn't recognize. The signal was powerful, encrypted, and alien. He frowned. Before he could analyze it, a faint vibration trembled through the ground. The coffee mug on the table shook slightly. Alia froze. Her eyes widened and her small hands gripped the blanket. Eli's instincts kicked in. He ran to the window. Dust clouds were rising in the distance. Metallic shadows moved across the sand. Patrol ships flying low and slow, scanning the ground with red beams. He cursed under his breath. The only ones who used ships like that were Velis patrols, the alien empire that ruled this sector. What were they doing here? He turned to Alia. She was trembling, whispering something over and over in her own tongue. He knelt beside her, speaking calmly. "Hey, it's okay, stay quiet, we'll be fine." But she shook her head, tears forming. "No safe they find me, they take me." Her voice cracked with fear. Eli stared at her, realizing this wasn't just a child running away. She was hiding from them. He pulled open a panel in the floor, revealing a narrow storage space. "Get in there and don't make a sound," he said. Alia hesitated, but when the ships drew closer, the low hum filling the air, she crawled in, clutching her blanket. Eli closed the panel, gently covering it with metal scraps. Seconds later, a deafening roar filled the air as one patrol landed outside. The door burst open and 3 tall alien soldiers stepped in, their armor glowing with blue lines. They looked around, scanning the room. "Human engineer," the leader barked in rough English. "We search for missing royal subject female of Velis blood." "You've seen her," Eli stood straight, heart pounding. "I haven't seen anyone. Only me here." The alien scanner swept the room, red light crawling over every surface. It stopped on the heater, then on the table where a small piece of foil lay, the chocolate wrapper. The soldier picked it up. "Earth food," he said, narrowing his eyes. "You share this with someone?" Eli met his stare without flinching. "I eat alone. Keeps me sane." The alien studied him for a moment, then tossed the wrapper aside. "If we find you lying, human, there will be consequences." They turned and left. The roar of engines faded as the ship rose back into the mist. Eli waited until the sound was gone, then lifted the floor panel. Alia's wide eyes met his. She was shaking but alive. "They gone," she whispered. "Yeah, for now," he said, pulling her out carefully. She looked at him with new eyes full of disbelief and gratitude. "You protect me," he nodded. "I guess I did." Alia placed her small glowing hand on his arm. "They hurt you for me," Eli smiled faintly. "I've been hurt worse. You just stay safe, all right?" Outside, the patrols moved on, but one drone lingered above the ruins, watching silently. It sent a signal far into space, a signal that carried a name, Alia. Inside the small shelter, the human and the alien sat quietly, the air heavy with unspoken truth. Eli didn't know what she was hiding from, but he knew he had crossed a line that couldn't be undone. He looked out at the fading ships and whispered, to himself, "Whatever you're running from, Alia, it just found us." And somewhere, high above the clouds, a fleet began to change direction, heading straight for them. Night came heavy and quiet. The storm had gone, but the silence that followed felt strange, almost watchful. Eli sat near the heater, cleaning his tools, his mind restless. He kept glancing at Alia, who sat by the window, her eyes glowing faint silver under the pale moonlight. She looked calm, yet her hands wouldn't stop trembling. He finally spoke. "They were looking for you, weren't they?" Alia didn't answer at first. She kept staring out into the empty desert as if she could still see the patrol lights moving in the dark. Then she whispered softly, "Yes." Eli leaned forward. "Who are you really, Alia?" She turned her gaze toward him. For a moment she looked like a scared child again. Then slowly she touched the small crystal pendant around her neck. It flickered faint blue and projected a light across the wall. A glowing symbol appeared above her palm, shaped like a crown made of stars. Eli froze. He had seen that mark before in old news streams on colony stations. It was the royal seal of Velis Prime. His voice came out in a whisper. "You're royal," she nodded quietly. "My father, High Sovereign of Velis Prime. My family rule many worlds. But enemies came war inside palace. I escape in small ship. Crash here." Her voice broke slightly as she spoke each word with care. She had been running for days, lost, starving alone. Eli looked at the small girl in front of him, trying to match her fragile face with the image of an alien princess. The thought felt impossible, yet the truth shimmered in her eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. She looked down. "Humans hate my kind. I was afraid." He shook his head slowly. "Not me. I just saw someone hungry. That's all." Her eyes softened. "You give food. You give warm." No one ever give to royal blood without wanting something back. But you gave and asked nothing. Eli smiled faintly. Didn't think about it that way. Just did what felt right. For a while they sat in silence. The heater hummed softly between them. Alia's hands rested over the glowing pendant as if it was the only piece of home she had left. Then the transmitter on the table beeped faintly. A weak signal flashed across the screen. Eli frowned and checked it. Someone's broadcasting again. Same alien code. Alia's expression changed. They found me. Before Eli could respond, the floor vibrated slightly. Outside faint lights flickered in the sky. Ships again, but this time closer, faster, and more focused. Eli stood up, grabbing his pack. We need to move, now. Alia hesitated, then reached for the small crystal again, pressing it to her chest. If they find me, they take me back. They say I bring peace, but they use me for power. I don't want throne. I just want to be free. Eli looked at her, unsure what to say. Then let's keep you free. He grabbed his gear and opened the back hatch leading to the tunnels below the outpost. The air was damp and smelled of oil and old circuits. Alia followed close behind, her glowing skin lighting the path faintly. They walked through the tunnels until the hum of ships faded into the distance. Eli stopped to catch his breath. We'll rest here for a bit. Alia looked at him, tired but grateful. You risk for me again, he shrugged. Guess I'm getting used to it. She smiled softly. When I return to Sky, I tell them not all humans are cruel. Eli looked at her. Return to Sky, huh? You think you'll go back? Alia's eyes turned sad. Maybe, but not same Alia. You changed me. The silence stretched again. Only the distant sound of dripping water echoed through the tunnels. Eli leaned against the wall, thinking about everything that had just happened. He had saved a starving girl without knowing she carried the power of worlds. Now every army in orbit wanted her back. He looked at her, glowing softly in the dark. Guess my life just got complicated. Alia tilted her head, trying to understand the word. Complicated, Eli laughed quietly. Means things are going to get hard. She smiled again, small but full of warmth. Then I stay, help her. Words were simple, but they carried a promise. That would change both their fates. Far above the clouds, a massive royal ship turned toward the desert, its scanners locking onto the faint human signal. And deep below, the ground, a human and an alien princess sat side by side, unaware that the moment of truth was coming faster than either of them could imagine. The tunnels were cold and narrow, the sound of their footsteps echoing off the metal walls. Eli led the way, his flashlight flickering in the dark, while Alia followed close behind, her faint blue glow lighting the path. The deeper they went, the louder the hum of machines became, like a sleeping beast under the ground. Eli checked his handheld scanner. The patrols are spreading out. They're scanning everything. If we stay down here long enough, they'll find us. Alia's voice came soft but firm. We go deeper. There's old path to desert. I saw on ship maps before crash. He looked at her, surprised. You memorized maps? She nodded. I learned fast. Royal training. They moved quickly, turning through rusted corridors and fallen beams. The air smelled of dust and burnt metal. Somewhere far above, the sound of engines roared again. The ships were lowering to the surface. Eli stopped near a collapsed passage. This way's blocked. Alia looked at the wall, studying it. Her small hands brushed the surface, then pressed against a hidden panel. The wall shimmered for a second and opened, revealing an old maintenance shaft. Eli stared. You really are full of surprises. She smiled faintly. Royal blood remembers old things. They crawled through the shaft, emerging into a wider tunnel where old cargo pods were stacked like forgotten graves. The silence here felt heavy. Eli checked his watch. We've got maybe an hour before they sweep this area. Then a loud crash echoed behind them. The tunnel lights flickered. Alia gasped. From the darkness came the heavy steps of armored soldiers, their blue armor gleaming in the dim light. Run, Eli shouted, grabbing her hand. They sprinted through the tunnel, hearts pounding, the echo of boots chasing them. The soldiers fired plasma bolts that scorched the walls, sending sparks flying. Alia stumbled, but Eli caught her arm, pulling her forward. They reached a fork. Eli turned left, jumping over a broken rail. The ground shook as another blast hit nearby. Metal fell from the ceiling. He shielded her with his body as dust and fire rained down. When the smoke cleared, they were cornered. 3 soldiers blocked the path, weapons raised. Eli stood in front of Alia, holding a metal pipe as his only weapon. He knew he couldn't win, but he wouldn't back down. The lead soldier aimed his rifle. Surrender the royal. Humans, step aside. Eli didn't move. You'll have to go through me, they fired. The blast hit the wall beside him. He ducked but refused to run. Behind him, Alia's eyes glowed brighter than before, her voice calm but filled with strange power. Stop. The soldiers froze for a second, confused. A pulse of blue light spread from her body, flowing across the tunnel like a wave. The energy hit their armor and shorted their weapons in sparks. One by one they collapsed unconscious, their systems overloaded. Eli stared at her in shock. What was that? She breathed heavily. Royal command signal. My blood controls old tech. I use it to protect. He blinked, still catching his breath. Remind me never to get on your bad side. She gave a weak smile. I only use for defense. They moved again, this time faster. The tunnel opened into a hidden exit leading out into the desert. The night sky stretched wide above them, stars shining like cold fire. In the distance, explosions lit the horizon. The patrols were tearing apart the ruins, searching for them. Eli led her across the sand to an old crawler half buried in dust. If I can get this running, we can reach the canyon before sunrise. Alia helped without being asked, passing him tools silently, her hands steady. Together they worked while the wind howled around them. When the engine finally roared to life, Eli almost couldn't believe it. They climbed in and sped into the desert, the stars fading behind them. Alia looked back once, her silver eyes reflecting the burning ruins. They won't stop, she said softly. Eli kept his eyes on the horizon. Then neither will we. The crawler raced across the sand, leaving a trail of light in the dark. Behind them, the royal fleet descended from the sky, their searchlights sweeping the dunes. The chase had truly begun. As dawn broke, the first rays of light touched Alia's face. For the first time, she looked free, the wind in her hair, the stars fading behind her. Eli glanced at her and smiled faintly. Guess we're both running from something. She met his eyes. Maybe we run toward something better. He didn't answer, but deep down he hoped she was right. Because somewhere in that endless desert between stars and silence, something stronger than fear had started to grow, and neither of them knew it yet. But the chase would only bring them closer to a destiny that would change both their worlds forever. The sun rose slow and pale over the desert, turning the dunes gold and silver. The crawler rolled across the sand, its old engine humming like a heartbeat. Eli's hands gripped the controls, eyes fixed on the horizon, while Alia sat beside him, silent, the wind lifting her white hair. They had been running all night. Now the sky behind them glowed faint blue from the searchlights still hunting. Eli's face was tired, but his mind stayed sharp. We can't keep this up forever. They'll find us sooner or later. Alia looked at the endless desert ahead. There is place-old human outpost hidden under mountain. My father once used it to trade peace gifts. It is safe, he nodded. Then that's where we go. Hours passed with only the hum of the engine and the whisper of sand. Alia watched him work his machines, patching the controls and tuning the signals. She saw how focused he was, how his hands never stopped even when he was exhausted. Humans were strange to her, fragile yet stubborn, kind even when it made no sense. As the sun climbed higher, she leaned back and whispered, Eli, when you gave me chocolate, you did not know who I was. He smiled without looking up. Didn't need to know. You were hungry. That was enough, she thought for a while. Where I come from, no one gives without asking. You are different. Eli laughed softly. Maybe, or maybe I'm just bad at being selfish. Her small smile faded into quiet. When they find us, they will take me back. They must. If I stay gone, war will grow. My father's enemies will burn worlds to find me. Eli's hand stilled. And what happens to me if they do? She looked down. They call humans primitive. You helped me. They may see it as crime. He let out a slow breath. So helping you means I die. Figures. She reached out, touched his arm. I can stop that. I can tell them you saved me. They will listen. He met her eyes. You sure about that, princess? She flinched at the word. Do not call me that. I am just Alia with you. The moment hung quiet between them, heavy with things unsaid. Then the engine sputtered, warning lights flashing. Eli cursed softly and slowed the crawler behind a rock ridge. We need to cool the core. We'll rest a bit. They climbed out, the wind dry and hot against their faces. The world around them was endless dunes and broken sky. For a long while neither spoke. Alia knelt in the sand, tracing small circles. On my world, deserts mean rebirth, she said. You bury the past in sand and rise again. Eli smiled faintly. Maybe we both need that. Before she could reply, the ground trembled faintly. A low hum rolled through the air, growing louder. Alia looked up, eyes wide. They come. Far above, the clouds broke apart, revealing silver ships descending in formation. The royal insignia glimmered on their sides. Eli grabbed his gear. "Get in the crawler." "We can still run," but Alia shook her head. "No more running. They will chase forever. If I go now, they stop hurting worlds. You will be safe." He stared at her, disbelief in his eyes. "You can't just hand yourself over." "I must." Her voice was calm, but her hands trembled. "You gave me warmth when I was cold. Kindness when I was nothing. I will not let that kindness die with you." Eli wanted to argue, but he saw the truth in her eyes. She was tired of hiding, tired of being hunted. The ships landed around them, kicking up storms of dust. Golden light filled the air. From the largest ship stepped tall guards in silver armor, and behind them a woman draped in royal robes, her eyes the same silver as Alia's. The woman spoke in their language, her voice echoing. Alia turned to Eli one last time. "My mother," Eli's throat tightened. "So this is goodbye." She stepped closer, pressed something small and cool into his hand, a silver box etched with alien symbols. "Inside are many sweets from Earth. You gave me your last one. Now I return the favor." He looked down at it, then back at her. "You really didn't have to." Her voice softened. "I wanted to." Guards approached gently, guiding her toward the ship. She looked back once, her eyes full of light and sorrow. "Do not forget me, Eli of Earth." He smiled faintly. "Not a chance." The ship rose slowly, engines blazing gold against the sky. Eli stood there watching until it vanished into the clouds, leaving only silence and sand. He opened the small box in his hand. Inside lay rows of shining chocolates wrapped in silver foil. He laughed quietly, the sound lost in the wind. The desert stretched around him, wide and empty, but for the first time it didn't feel lonely. Somewhere out there among the stars, a girl named Alia remembered him too. And though she was gone, her promise lingered, carried on the wind like the taste of sweetness that never truly fades. Years passed quietly across the frontier worlds. The war that once darkened the skies of Velis Prime had ended, and peace had returned between humans and aliens. For most people, the story of a missing princess was just an old rumor buried under time. But not for Eli. He lived now on a quiet human colony at the edge of known space-fixing ships for travelers who came and went. His workshop sat at the border of the desert, where the wind still carried the same dry scent that reminded him of another world, another storm, and a small alien girl who had once smiled at a piece of chocolate. He one day and tea, worked long days and lonely nights, never speaking of her but never forgetting. Sometimes he would take out the silver box she had left him, still full of shining wrappers, and he would hold one piece between his fingers without eating it. It was his reminder that kindness had meaning even when no one was watching. One evening, as the twin suns sank behind the dunes, a strange hum filled the sky. Eli stepped outside, shading his eyes. At first he thought it was just another trade ship passing through, but then the light grew brighter, spreading like gold fire across the clouds. The ground trembled softly and dust swirled around his boots. Every villager stopped what they were doing, staring upward in silence as a massive ship descended from the sky. Its hull shimmered with royal insignias, its engines whispering like wind through glass. No one had seen a ship like it since the old wars. Eli stood still, heart pounding. He knew that design. He had seen it once before when she left. The ship landed at the edge of the settlement, and a ramp extended slowly, touching the sand. Soldiers in silver armor stepped out, forming a path. Between them walked a tall figure dressed in flowing white robes lined with blue light. Her hair shimmered like moonlight, and her eyes were bright silver, just as he remembered. The crowd gasped, whispering her name, Queen Alia of Velis Prime. Eli felt his throat tighten. She looked older, stronger, but the warmth in her eyes was the same. She scanned the crowd once, and her gaze stopped on him. A smile touched her lips, the kind that held both power and memory. Without hesitation, she walked toward him while everyone else bowed. Only Eli stood frozen, unable to speak. When she reached him, she stopped just an arm's length away. The wind played softly between them. "You once gave me chocolate," she said, her voice calm and full of light. "You gave when I had nothing. You gave without asking. I never forgot." Eli found his voice, though it came out rough. "You remembered," she nodded. "Every day. When I returned home, I told my people of a human who shared kindness with a stranger. That story changed them more than any treaty could. It taught them that humanity is not weakness but strength." He looked at her not as a queen, but as the same girl who once sat shivering by a heater in his small outpost. So why come back? Her smile deepened. Because promises are not meant to fade. You gave me warmth when I was lost. Now it is my turn to give something back. She lifted her hand and a small sphere of light appeared hovering between them. Inside it flickered the image of stars forming new routes, trade paths, and colonies bound by peace. I offer Earth alliance and friendship. A gift from a queen who was once a lost child saved by a human heart. Eli stared at the light, then at her. You didn't have to travel across galaxies for that. She laughed softly. Maybe not, but I wanted to see you again. The crowd remained silent, watching as the alien queen stood before the human mechanic in the fading sunset. Alia stepped closer and whispered so only he could hear. You once gave me a world and one piece of chocolate. Let me give you a kingdom in return. He smiled gently, shaking his head. I think I'll settle for a cup of coffee. She laughed again, a sound that carried warmth through the whole crowd. Then coffee it shall be. As the suns dipped below the dunes, the queen of Velis Prime and the human who once saved her walked side by side toward the workshop. Two worlds that were once divided had finally met in peace. And somewhere in the desert wind, the faint scent of chocolate drifted again. Sweet, gentle, and eternal. A memory that neither time nor distance could ever take away.